This webinar was recorded in April of 2025. You can this and other recordings at modernideasforbusiness.com. Our speaker is Becky Barton of People 415.
Just maybe chime in on, and we could use the chat function for this. In 2024, arrests were just over 113,000 total for the year. I'm curious to hear what this crowd might think in terms of arrests so far in 2025. C and D, C, D, a little bit all over the place. So the answer is C. So even though we're, a quarter of the year in, we're already, getting close to almost half of the arrests that were made in 2024. So you can find this information on the ICE website. They share the stats out there. And I'll mail you that prize, Ed. I love that. So you're hearing it in the news, but it is, and it's from an employer standpoint, this stuff does come with pretty hefty penalties. And if you think about it, this is, per violation. So, if you have 1,000 employees, you can multiply these by however many employees don't have the correct I-9. So these numbers can really grow very quickly in terms of penalties. What ICE really wants to see is due diligence, good faith effort to get this stuff done. So, if you have an immigration enforcement response plan, you're doing those regular I-9 audits, maybe quarterly, you're getting your paperwork in order. You're really taking those steps to get these things correct and get it right. Your audit will go much smoother. So they want to see due diligence. They want to see good faith effort. Now, if you just are totally ignoring them, second and third violation, because they'll keep coming back to make sure if you're not doing it, they're going to come back and visit again. It starts to really add up, and then criminal convictions are possible. If you're knowingly just disregarding the law, knowingly hiring undocumented workers, there's jail time for those sort of things. So take this stuff seriously. This is a really important one. A few different resources that I wanted to, and so obviously we'll have this on the slides, but there's a lot of really great resources out there. Stuff that you can share with your employees themselves, as well as, how to respond, all that kind of stuff. So there's some really great resources out. Terry, I appreciate your comment in there. So Terry said that, every time she's conducted an audit, always found deficiencies, right? I mean, these things are not easy. They're very technical. There tends to always be mistakes. So a best practice is quarterly to go and kind of audit the I-9s that you've collected, in the previous quarter, because mistakes can easily be made, and the more hands you have in the cookie jar that are completing these forms, the more the likelihood of having mistakes is even higher. There's training that you can get on how to properly fill out an I-9 form. We offer that. Even E-Verify offers that. That's the digital I-9 form that's, hosted through the U.S. government. So there's a lot of great resources to get this right. Let me see, there's a question here. Any thoughts on how IRS decision to release some information to ICE to help ID immigrants who have orders for deportation may impact companies or audits? I don't have an answer on that one. So let me give that some thought, and maybe I can get back with Ed on an answer for you there. All right. So moving ahead, this is one that's really sort of done a little weaving back and forth. Both parties, Trump and Harris, supported no taxes on tipped wages on the campaign trail. And early on in this year, it really looked like, this isn't going to happen. It's too confusing. To try to separate out those wages. It's too much lost, revenue for the IRS, et cetera. It was kind of thought that this was more of just a gimmick to get, votes. But there are lawmakers in about 20 states right now, and there is a proposal in Congress to possibly make this a reality. So this is definitely one to watch. I think, the original thought at the early parts of the year was, well, if you carve out this income as, tax-free tipped wages, right? Which traditionally you think of, hospitality or something like that, personal care, things like that. Will other industries find ways to form, tips, right? To shelter that income from taxes. But it seems to be gaining traction. So definitely keep an eye on this one because it may come to fruition. And it's one of those that we'll have to wait and see. All right, non-compete agreements. So again, California has its own rules. So for California employers, non-competes are not allowed. The federal ban has been stalled out. Trump has shown in his own business dealings. He's a big fan of non-competes. He has a history of using them personally, as well as in his political campaign. So it will likely remain stalled at the federal level. But we will. It's one to kind of watch. But again, California already has this in place. So you can't have employees sign a non-compete. It's not enforceable. And you may think, well, I'll just put it in their new hire paperwork and they'll sign it. And, what does it matter? The reality is you really want to make sure you're only asking your employees to sign things that are legally bound, because a judge could see you as being not doing your due diligence and throw out all the rest of your policies along with a non-compete agreement. And you wouldn't want that to happen. So definitely in California, you don't want to be using non-competes.
Sorry, Becky, there was a question that came up on a previous point. Robert is asking, is it just income tax or is it FICA too?
Yeah, interesting. I believe this would affect both, because at least that was what was under for the OT. It would affect both. I believe it does affect both income tax and FICA. So all those little line items that go out of your payroll, that you see on your pay stub, those deductions wouldn't be happening, right? And they wouldn't be funded in the same way that they are today. All righty. Let's keep moving here. We doing okay on time? Out in the 35 mark. Okay. Yeah, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions as well. So, okay, worker classification. I do want to point out California has stricter definitions, but at the federal level, worker classification, this refers to, is someone an employee, a worker? Are they an employee, W-2, or are they a contractor, like a 1099? And there's, pluses and minuses to both types of workers. So current state is, in the Biden administration, we had a 6-part rule, which are these bullet points in terms of how do you classify someone as a contractor. And there's a lot of employers out there and organizations that want to classify more of their workforce as independent contractor. There are some benefits there, right? You don't have to give them, health care. You can carve them out of your 401k plan and other benefits. You don't have to give them time off. There's a lot of different reasons that organizations like to use independent contractors. And so under Biden administration, we had, so the 6-part rule. I think actually, quite frankly, he inherited it from Obama. What Trump is proposing is to narrow that even further, so that it's even easier to classify workers as independent contractors. So the 2 items that are in bold here: opportunity for profit or loss. Does this person have that? And how much control do they have over the work they do? So if they meet those 2 rules, you can classify someone as an independent. So it's a more narrow requirement, which would allow more people to be classified as independent contractors. So we'll see what happens if this swings, kind of back in terms of making it easier for companies to use independent contractors. In all likeliness, this will probably go through, but today it doesn't exist yet today. California has a lot more rules in terms of being able to classify someone as an independent contractor. Certainly during the gig economy, and like your Uber drivers and some of the other on-demand providers. There was a big court case that came out of that. So as a result, more and more workers were required to be classified as employees, which obviously is can be a really big.
No, I want to make sure people's questions are answered. And we lost Becky, so she'll be.
I notice we have Jamie Orendak on, who Jamie gave a talk to this group. Jamie is also an HR professional, and I don't want to steal any thunder from Becky, but I wonder if Jamie would feel comfortable asking a few of these questions in the meantime.
That's a great idea. Jamie, I think I've allowed you to speak. Are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for stepping in, Jamie, and pinch hitting. So a couple of the questions that I see in chat here, I think it was Mark Kelly is asking, and I think it was related to not as much classification as, well, his question is, what about benefit forfeiture? I think it was around non-competes, but if an employee leaves to join a competitor, can I make them forfeit things like bonuses or profit sharing?
Okay, so I believe Mark is in Nevada, if I recall correctly. So it's state law, Mark. So if you're in Nevada, then we need to check Nevada law. Chances are going to be yes in that state. Now in California, it depends on if there is a writing that promises that. So you'd have to go by if you had it in a contract form or if you had it written in an employee handbook. So we're going to take it on a case by case.
I am Dave Cowan, one of the organizers of Modern Ideas for Business, and I will be your moderator today. So I'm founder and CEO of Silicon Valley Sales Group, a Sandler sales performance company that works with professional service providers and teams across a broad range of industries to implement a proven sales process and methodology that enables them to achieve and exceed their revenue and sales goals. Our Modern Ideas for Business is to enable, or our mission at Modern Ideas for Business is to enable business leaders to find opportunities and solve challenges presented by changes in the economic, political, and legal landscapes in which they compete. We really strive to empower business leaders with the knowledge, skills, networks, and actionable insights necessary to achieve sustainable success. So to that end, you can also see videos of past speakers and their talks on our website. And we'll also record this webinar and send you a link to the recording and a copy of Becky's slide presentation within a few days after the webinar. So the other organizers of Modern Ideas for Business are Ed Correa, founder and president of Sagason Technologies, a global leader in cybersecurity solutions and digital risk management. Paul Duran, a commercial banker for over 25 years and now an expert loan consultant, serving small and medium-sized businesses looking for the methods and means to fund their growth. And Jaco Grobelar, CEO of Broad Vision Marketing, developing and executing inbound marketing strategies that enable clients to consistently create more sales-ready prospects. So we started Modern Ideas for Business with the goal of creating an interactive forum where business leaders can learn from experts in a variety of fields, ask questions, and share their thoughts and opinions on the topic of the day. So during today's webinar, feel free to either come off mute and ask questions or offer your thoughts and opinions